I think there's been a lot of criticism in terms of not seeing what the dev direction is. I agree with that to the extent that it felt like, why did we make quests if we don't want quests to be good? But in terms of what the vision is overall for like this patch, they've been saying they want to bring the power level of standard down. It would be unlikely that they would change course on that now. So whether or not you think a lower power level is a good idea or not, there is a vision here, I think.
Welcome to episode 523 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, November 13th, 2025, in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North Rend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, NY Kiwi, Spine, and Grizzly Bear. And by our patrons of the week, Rob Ansel and Wadeo. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder, how have you two been doing?
I got to Legend with Mech Warrior, and then I stopped playing it because that was not fun for a while. It did the job. It brought me in at like around, I don't know, 1,000, 1,100. And then I tried playing it a little bit more at Legend, and I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And that was about the time that it started falling off in favor of like the Dragon Warrior. And I played that some and kind of bounced around. But yeah, the Mech Warrior, I mean, I'm glad it's dead. Don't get me wrong. Like, that deck was dumb. But yeah, I that was a smoke 'em while you got a moment, and I did just that, and I regret nothing. But that was about it. And we also went to Rhode Island Comic-Con this weekend, so that was a lot. That was a lot of that day. So I didn't have a whole lot of time over the weekend to play, but Rhode Island Comic-Con was pretty good. It was like it's at a convention center that's attached to a hockey rink, and they let us in on and part of it is in the hockey rink, but there were no signs for like where the actual convention were. So like we're walking around like how hockey rink's like a big circle, and we're walking around. They have vendors all around, like where they have all like the food vendors for like a hockey game. And we go, we're seeing all these vendors, and we're like, okay, well, we've done a full lap because like we've seen this vendor before. And then we're like, okay, well, where's everything else? And we finally like ask around. They're like, oh yeah, where you came in, you needed to do a 180-degree turn and then go down this ramp and over a sky bridge, and then that'll take you to the actual convention center. And we're like, how are we supposed to know this? Like, there's no signs at all. There was one sign that said like photo op straight ahead, and then no sign to turn to go down to like the third floor. Like there was some photo ops like on like where the hockey rink would be, but there were no signs to say, hey, turn here, dummy. And then we finally get there, and like we'd been there for like 2 hours, and then we get to the actual convention. It was so, but it was a good time. And we got the Brian O'Halloran, who plays Dante from Clerks, we got him to sign a metal sign that Twinbee had gotten at like a closing FYE for $2. So we got a picture of him with it. It's the sign. If you've seen the movie, they have like a big canvas thing over the shutters that says, "I assure you we're open." So we got that, and she had him sign that. So that was fun. It was a good time. It was one of the better, lack of signage notwithstanding, it was one of the better conventions we've been to this year. Better than the one that they had in Boston. So highly recommend if you're local. But yeah, what about how'd you two do? I mean, Edel, you're feeling better, hopefully. It sounds like you're feeling better.
Yeah, my voice is much better. Still have like little bit of lingering cough, but hopefully I should be good to go for this Sunday. I mean, well, I will be good to go. Question is whether or not I'll have to mute myself sometimes to cough.
Wicked, it sounds like whoever designed that convention space should have been thinking about gamers. It's a Comic-Con. Turning around and going over the sky bridge is the last thing you do when you're exploring that map, right? First you explore forwards.
Yeah.
The sky bridge feels like a different area, so you're going to do that last.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, it was like, and it wasn't even like there were no signs, there was no compass. You know, there wasn't like we even went down some of the little hidden areas, right? Like looking for rupees or whatever, and there wasn't anything. So,
and we're glad that you were feeling better, Edel. What have you been playing?
Well, I played a bunch of like an aggro Corona rogue, right? So it has, not too many legendaries so that you can consistently hit the ones you want. It doesn't have like the all-in, I'm going to draw 2 pirates and a weapon to get Kingslayer every time, the way that like the weapon rogue did earlier. But you get a 29 card deck, right? And the legendaries are Opu, of course, Corona, Dream Planner Zephyrus, Kingslayers itself, and Blood Mage Thalnos. And it's lots of burn, lots of combo stuff. In addition to Flashback, which is amazing. It's got Eridar Skulker, which is nice because a lot of times that just ends up being like 8 damage, right? If you take advantage of the stealth both times, right? It's like 8 damage. Yeah, it did pretty reasonably. I don't know if I just got lucky, right? It's small sample size, but I did beat all the shamans that I faced, which we'll get into why that's a big deal later, I guess. Yeah, seem cool. The Thalnos is basically there because of the great synergy with Chrono Daggers, and then you've got O Manager and Eviscerate. Zephyrus for damage sometimes gives you things that are spells, right? So spell damage is good.
A perfect Mind Blast over 4 Frosty Decor things.
Yeah, sometimes.
Weren't you saying you got that?
Yeah. So yeah, that was fun. And then I have not done it myself, but I am positive that like Quest Warrior is still good, particularly if people are like doing more aggressive things with Shaman. Like I gotta imagine just full control Warrior is solid. And then been experimenting otherwise. I have like a build of Gelbin Paladin that it was like 3-0 for me. That is not the aggressive kind of the other. It has like Pyro Equality Consecrate. And yes, the weapon is worse, but you can still cheese out and turn 6 Gelbin and 6 or 7, and like that's good enough.
Well, I put the aggro Garona Rogue list in, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, of course.
Try to get the Gelbin list for the listeners in the show notes here. And for me, because I want to play it.
What about you?
So first, I hit Legend with a deck that hit prominence like literally like right after we recorded last week, which was the sort of Dragon Logash Warrior, Tempo Warrior, whatever you want to call it. I made a few different iterations on that, so it has the dragons. It also has like Stone Carver plus Sanguine Depths, because if you happen to get that opener, it's just insane. You've got some early dragons and like the Petal Peddler to buff them, and then you have some late game. So I've actually seen some builds that cut the Fabled, but the one that I was running has the Fabled, and usually you only have 2 in hand, not 3. Although I did get one mirror where I had 2 and they had 3, and it was like, gosh darn it. Just not beating that. But I did really well with this deck. I did add it to the show notes from last week, like right after we posted it. I added it in because we hadn't discussed it during the show. But there are potentially more updated builds. Like I cut the tech cards for Portal Vanguards, which is the 3-mana dragon that draws another minion and gives it +2/+2 with rewind, and was experimenting with other things like Zephyrus, the Whelp of the Infinite, which is the reborn poison one. Hit legend on like an incredible win streak and then immediately started losing, which is a thing that definitely happens.
Yep.
Came in like 900 and then I lost like 1,000 ranks over 2 days. So I was a little bit grumpy. And then today, right after the patch, I switched to the Shaman. And first I was playing, I think, the build that's kind of out of the bag. And then I saw that World 8 had posted that Sunk had a new version. So I was playing that. That was maybe even a little bit lower to the ground. So I have that in the show notes. And I am 14-3 with it today. Almost all the way back up.
Yeah.
to where I was. I'm at like 1k. I did have one game against a quest warrior who would have won if my 9/9 Grofin had not won 2 brawls in a row on 2 separate turns. They were probably salty about that because I think I was kind of out of stuff. I needed something to stick, which needing things to stick against a control warrior in a later turn is not a place where you want to be. But if you luck out, then it's okay. But overall, I mean, the deck feels super strong. You can get some really silly kind of early boards. The newer version from Sunk has Parrot Sanctuary, and I gotta say, I really like the Parrot Sanctuary. It also has Shutterwalk. I'm not as sure about the Shutterwalk. Like, yes, you can do it with Hagatha, but that doesn't come up very often. I guess if I start seeing more control.
The Shutterwalk is good because then you get the 8 drop of the Murloc, and then you just have 4 8/8s, and 3 of them have rush.
When you're in a slower game, I think that might be more necessary.
I was
seeing
even
a lot
against
of
even against a Logosh warrior. That was the turning point for me because I was behind against a Logosh warrior all game, and then I just managed to not die into a Shutterwalk into Murlocs, and they cleared like 2 of them and they couldn't clear the other ones, and then I just played the 1-mana Shutter Block into Wish Upon a Star from Hagatha, and those each did 14 and killed them. So, you know.
Yeah, you can have, so this deck, for those who are not familiar, we've got some big spells and Hagatha. We've got Furious Fowls, which those birds, that's the one where you summon 2/3/3 birds with immune while attacking to attack something. It's not only 6 damage, those birds can just stick around.
And they still have immune after that turn. Like, they have immune when attacking forever, not just when you cast the spell.
Correct.
Yeah. We have Wish Upon a Star. We have Muradin. Obviously, Muradin is good. We've got some early game with like Murloc Grofin. That's early and late game, really, right? Primordial Overseer is a little bit of draw. That's if you've cast a nature spell while holding this, game +1/+1 and draw a card. And you have Flight of the Firehawk, which draws things. So you often end up with stuff buffed either from like Turbulus or Flight of the Firehawk or Bird Watching. Bumbling Bellhop, super important in this deck. And this version that I was running has Hex because it's
That's
Hex.
why I was playing it.
So, yeah, it definitely was a fun time. And I did see one cycle rogue with Garona, and they conceded on 4 because I had like 2 6/6 taunts and a 4/4 and something else. Thanks to Parrot Sanctuary. So they were like, you know what? I'm out. Which, respect. No need to stay around in a game in that situation. I certainly had games that I had lost as well. I had a good win streak up to Legend, but it was like win streak up to the final boss, lose. Back up to the final boss, lose again. Like, I kept running into people who just like had the nuts on the final boss. I'm like, can't you have the nuts right after I hit Legend? They had the nuts after I hit Legend also. That was really what we were going for. So, but yeah, overall went pretty well. The presentation that I was talking about last week, how I had volunteered to do it a week early. Why did I do that? I got all prepped for it the day after the podcast, and then they ran out of time and I didn't actually give it. So the good news is that I'm already prepared for tomorrow. I just need to review my notes again a little bit.
All right. Well, we do have we're just talking about the patch today because the patch dropped 7 hours ago. So we don't know what the meta is yet because we're recording this on Thursday. So we got a little bit of news, and then we're just going to talk about the patch and talk about where things might go other than Shaman. But, right now, we know about as much as you do, but we're going to talk about what happened, and then we'll talk about what we think might happen.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, so just a couple. The patch is obviously the big news this week, but there was a little bit of news outside of that. So we mentioned in the known issues last week that there was an issue with ranked rewards where the ranked rewards at the end that you opened up on the 1st of this month were supposed to be packs from Across the Timeways, but what people got were packs from Lost City of Ungoro. So they posted something on Friday saying, here's how we're making it right. Next week, we'll be sending you the proper Across the Timeways packs you should have received, and you'll keep the Lost City of Ungoro packs you've already opened. So, I don't think if you left them unopened, I don't think that affects anything. It's not necessarily. There are some people who just like keep some of the packs sealed for reasons. But yeah, even if you didn't open them, I would imagine you still get the new ones, so they're not going to claw those back from you. I mean, you might not notice, but that's beside the point. But it's good that they're doing that and not just kind of taking, because that was definitely a bummer when you opened your rewards. And that's a not insignificant number of packs. If you hit Legend, that's 5 packs, especially at the start of a new expansion. That's significant. So that was a bit of a bummer, and it's good that they're making it right. There also was a bug with Signature Mr. Clocksworth. So what they say is that a bug caused Signature Mr. Clocksworth card to appear in Across the Timeways packs and was removed from collections. That was a mistake. Each collection is personal, represents your history of play and love for the game. While there may be extreme circumstances that call for altering a collection, this wasn't one of them. We know how much your collection means to you, and we apologize for the frustration you caused. So here's how we're making this right. As of this point, we've restored the Signature Mr. Clocksworth card to everyone affected. You'll keep the random signature card you already received, which presumably was a replacement for the Signature Mr. Clocksworth. And they're sending you 5 gold in Across the Timeways packs. So if you lucked out and pulled a Signature Mr. Clocksworth, that was like the chase card of the set, apparently, and you just hit gold. So congratulations for that. Let us know if you were one of the lucky few. So that's that. It's good that they are, taking quick action and making things right. And then we also have the Last Chance Finals this weekend. So that is going to be Sunday, November 16th at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is noon Eastern, or other times in other time zones. It is going to be, so it's saying it's 1 day, Edel, but it's saying that day one is, does this mean that you're only casting the top 8? Because it's saying that day 1 is 7 rounds of Swiss, and then day 2 is a single elimination bracket. So are you only casting the top 8?
Yes.
For that? Okay. So day 1 is 7 rounds Swiss with a cut to top 8 that you will not see because it's not going to be streamed at all, but you'll hear about it. But the entirety of the top 8 will be streamed on Sunday. So you'll want to watch that. This is going to be the last eligible spots for Worlds. So the people who are going to be participating, anyone who competed in a Masters Tour and hasn't yet qualified, the top 50 global competitive points earners, and then all top 4 finishers from open qualifiers during the Last Chance qualifying period. And it's just the one spot that goes into into the worlds. So it's going to go all the way to the end. You can get 2 packs for watching at the main stream at twitch.tv/play Hearthstone. There will be co-streamers as well, and our own Edelweiss will be casting along with Lorinda Ravensaddle and Pocket Train. So that'll be a fun event. Again, as always, we beg of you, keep watching, keep watching esports. I think we're a little bit more confident after last week's announcement that there's going to be a Worlds at BlizzCon, which means that A, there's going to be competitive Hearthstone at BlizzCon, and B, there will be a Worlds next year. So those are both good things that we know in advance that has not been the case from year to year. So that's good. But getting viewers on the streams is always a good thing for the continued health of Hearthstone esports.
Is there anything we should be looking out for ahead of that at all? Or I know the competitors had a last minute balance patch they're gonna have to be adjusting for.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to highlight different skills, right, in terms of deck building. I feel like there's a couple things that happen, right? You see some players looking for a safe option, right? Just something familiar, something old that's good. I think that's going to be the Shaman. I think that's going to be the Demon Hunter with the name of the card. 6-drop, reduces a cost by 6.
Spirit Peddler.
That one. Yeah, the Peddler, Demon Hunter. And they'll be sort of looking for other things. I imagine we'll see some kind of quest warrior. Maybe we'll see some Logash warrior. But then you'll have, a few players looking to try and think outside the box and say, okay, well, if I know people are playing these safe decks, what can I do to try and, one up that? Can I do something creative in this chance where there's not a lot of information, not a lot of time? If you come up with something, then, yes, it's untested, but it's also an unknown, right? In more ways than is usually possible. So, should be a lot of fun.
I guess it depends on what your mentality is going into a tournament like that. If you think that you actually have a pretty good chance of winning, it's going to, some people might play that safe, some people might swing for the fences. If you think that you're you don't have a chance anyway, let's just try some stuff. Sometimes those are the people who can actually surprise the field by just pulling something out of left field that, even if it's not 100% optimized, if people don't know what to expect and how to play against it, sometimes that's enough to give you a little bit of an edge, and sometimes a little bit of an edge with players at this skill level is all you need.
Yeah, I'm hoping we have at least a couple people in the top 8 with some unusual deck choices, and I imagine we will.
Yeah, maybe we'll see Rafam Lock in the top 8. Who knows? I'm not betting on it, but
I ran into a Rafam Lock at 1200. They almost stabilized against me, actually. But
I won a couple games at 15, 2000 with Rafam. I won a couple, not many, but a couple. So
it is possible.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's it for the news, except for this patch that came out today that we probably ought to talk about. So let's do that.
All right, so patch 34.0.2 launched as we're recording this morning, Thursday, November 13th. It has balance updates for Hearthstone, Wild, and Battlegrounds. We're not going to talk about Battlegrounds. We're not up on the meta on Battlegrounds. If you're interested in that, of course, as always, check the patch notes. I'm sure they're significant. There was quite a few changes. Especially out of the three of us, I'm the least qualified to analyze them. But we definitely are qualified to talk about the standard balance changes. So I will start with the dev comment. It says, well met. We've been loving the fresh decks and creative strategies you've been brewing with the new cards from Across the Timeways, like Logash Warrior and Aura Paladin. Our goal with this balance update is to keep that spirit of experimentation alive by toning down a variety of cards that have long dominated the meta. Strong decks from last expansion and influential cards like Fyrakk have shaped the playing field in big ways. By adjusting these, we are opening the door for new ideas and strategies to succeed across all levels of play. We can't wait to see what you come up with next. So they made 16 changes in Standard, plus 2 changes in Wild. All nerfs, no buffs as of yet. We'll start with the neutrals that got hit. So Fyrakk the Blazing went from 9 mana to 10 mana, and now only casts 15 mana worth of fire spells at random enemies instead of 20 mana worth of fire spells at random enemies. The dev comment is, Fyrakk has served as a go-to neutral finisher for a while, so we're cooling him off a bit to encourage exploration of more class-specific win conditions.
I mean, Fyrakk's been too good for a while. Like, it was okay in the first set, into the Emerald Dream. And then we got a lot more burn in Lost City of Ungoro. And then some more burn in this set, but really, once it got a lot more burn in Lost City of Ungoro, like, that's when it really started to take off. And I mean, it was a meme that you could just play like a neutral only deck. Like, there was someone who just played like neutral Paladin and put in all 30 neutral cards. I'm like, that's extreme, but it's not. There's a nugget of truth to it, right? So it's always going to be there, and it's especially with Elise also, which they didn't touch in this patch. But the fact that Naralex and Fyrakk accounted for your 7 and 9, also to enable Elise, also weren't necessarily helping the feeling of everything kind of feeling samey. So this being a finisher in some decks, even, I think it's good to tone that down and make it a little bit less consistent. Like 15 down to 20 means that if you flame strike, that's now half your spells, right? As opposed to being a third of your spells, which, especially if you're not looking for a flame strike, if you just want burn to go face, a flame strike isn't what you're looking for. So that's, I think, making it a little bit more variant and harder to cast. I mean, Naralex doesn't care if it's 9 or 10, but you do have to hard cast that sometimes. And especially in, say, a rogue with Sandbox Scoundrel, which we'll also talk about. Slowing that down, I think, is also a good thing.
Yeah, I like that it's weaker. I don't like that I've seen some. Like, I wanted this card to be dead, and I'm not sure that it is. Which is honestly more a testament to other win conditions not being strong enough.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I have heard and have run into just unchanged Fyrakk DK. Rogue, not so much for, the aforementioned other reasons, which is a bigger hit.
Yeah, I did see some Fyrakk. It definitely felt less powerful. Like, it was less likely to draw and clear the board and do face damage, right? It was a little bit more pick 2, and except you don't get to pick 2, it picks 2 for you. So that did make a difference, I think. But yeah, I don't know that the card is dead, and I agree that we don't want this to be the win condition we're seeing all the time. I also would love to see more other win conditions. I do think that this expansion, there's more win conditions that I'm seeing than in Ungoro. But yeah, hopefully we also get some buffs at some point, and hopefully the nerfs to Ancient of Yore and Arkonite Defense Crystal will help at least a little bit with the slower decks not letting you have a win condition.
Yeah. It's also worth mentioning, we're recording this 7 hours after the patch dropped. There are some people who just didn't get the memo and even just clicked through the thing and didn't pay attention. There are also some people who are going to try the nerfed cards anyway to see if they're still playable, right? So I think if it is significantly worse, we'll see that decrease within a day or so. and certainly Last Chance will give us a pretty good read on that, because if the competitors don't feel like it's good enough and they cut it, then we should see Ladder kind of follow suit. But there's always this kind of weird first day after significant nerfs where people are like, well, let me see if it's still bad. And
Which
sometimes
they should.
which they should. Yeah. And there was, I keep thinking of like the story of like early in League of Legends where they said that they were nerfing a card and then forgot to make the change. And people just stopped playing the champion anyway because they assumed that it was weaker, even though it wasn't. So I'm okay with people actually trying the nerf card and seeing if it's actually as bad as they think it is. And this one doesn't necessarily read that much worse. So when it seems like, oh yeah, that's not going to do anything, let me try it anyway, then more people will try it and find out for themselves.
Yeah, we will see whether it continues to be played. But we were seeing a lot of Fyrakk. I mean, it still helps with Elise because it's now you don't need a 9 if you have a 10, if you still have a 0. So that's fine. It could still serve that purpose. And if it's still good enough, then I imagine we'll still see it there. But at least it makes you think harder about something else. So speaking of the Ancient of Yore and Arkonite Defense Crystal, so Ancient of Yore now only gains 3 armor each time instead of 5 armor each time. And Arkonite Defense Crystal no longer has Taunt.
Huge changes.
Yeah.
I have not seen any Arkonite Defense Crystals today.
I mean, Ancient of Yore is still card draw, right?
Yeah.
It's still gain 6, draw 2, which is not terrible for neutral card draw. It doesn't draw them for you all at once, but it still does draw you cards. So, I mean, I don't know if you can actually kill the card without like either removing the armor entirely or removing the card draw from it. But and I'm not saying you should do that. I think that there should be more of a penalty for doing that, right? Like it's a slow card. The armor was intended to counteract some of the slowness, but it's too much. And 3 feels like a slightly fairer rate for a neutral. Like you shouldn't be able to like get armor level or warrior level armor rate from a neutral in general without some sort of a drawback.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of that, it was 5 mana for a 5/5 and 2 shield blocks.
Yeah.
That's really good value. I mean, that's a 1 mana 5/5. Which wasn't like, it's not like the 5/5 was the reason you did it, but it did matter, particularly in the classes where you would recur it, right? Which is mostly Warlock with Eternal Layover, although it is a Death Knight card, Eternal Layover. They weren't doing that, but sometimes you would like Orbital Moon, right? And you'd be happy about that.
Yeah, and I think it's, the armor is still significant, but I do think it makes a difference for an aggro deck or a sort of mid-range deck to have 2 or 4 less armor, depending on whether it's been 1 or 2 turns. And no, often Yore would get played when the slower deck was starting to turn the corner, but every bit of less armor makes it a little more likely your burn can get there. It makes it even less like they can just play it while you have a board and be like, well, you won't kill me anyway. Like now it's like your board kind of needs to be clear for them to play this on 5, unless they have a ton of health. Yeah. But if you were pressuring them, your board kind of needs to be clear for them to play this on 5. So I think that does make a difference. I am sure we will still see this card beyond just today. Arkonite Defense Crystal, I am less sure we will be seeing.
Good riddance.
Which, you know what? Good. Yeah, I am on record for not being a fan of this card. There were so many games right before the patch that I would have won if the Arkonite Defense Crystals had not had Taunt. Because now you can just ignore them. So they're not actually defensive. You have to kill them off to get the armor benefit. And your starship is not defensive. You can't launch your starship and then say, well, now you can't kill me, because they can just ignore it and go face. So that's huge.
Yeah. And killing it and also then they don't kill the starship, which means you're not getting the 8 armor. It's like it slows everything down, and usually defense crystal was something you would put out in kind of a panic, and it would stop. It was gaining you 9, right? Because it was soaking 5 damage, it was giving you 4 of armor when it died. And then you had things like Starship Demon Hunter, which would just abuse it, right? And they would be playing the 5-drop that summoned, or the 7-drop that summoned 2 5-drops, and they recur that over and over again, and then they just sit back and, burn 15 minutes and eventually exit RE. And that whole strategy is more or less null and void, because that whole strategy kind of relies on the opponent having to kill them for you, and Demon Hunter in particular does not have great ways to kill off its own board. Not quickly, for sure. I mean, they can trade some things off, but they're not usually going to be able to trade their whole board off that quickly and then be able to recur everything. And certainly they're not going to be able to spend their turn just like playing Fell Hunters and trying to recur defense crystals, because if you spend too many turns doing that, your opponent just runs past them and you die, which is good.
Yeah, and there's other sort of light hits. Well, I mean, it's not a light hit, but it's not as big a loss, I guess. Hydration Station resurrecting a big starship because it had taunt from Arkonite. You can't do that anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know if we were playing like Quality Assurance in those decks, but you wouldn't be able to draw the crystal from Quality Assurance if we were in Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like, there's now no way to have a starship with taunt unless you like use a spell or something to give it taunt.
Yeah, and even then, it doesn't get resurrected with taunt. Even if the first one somehow got taunt.
Shield Maiden meta now. I am joking.
Don't give them ideas.
Starship Blood Decay maybe not being a thing, though, is very different from saying that Blood Decay is no longer a thing.
Correct.
But if we start to go into the class-specific changes first, we had a couple of quests changed. So basically reverted back. So Escape the Underfell. I don't know if people remember, but it had been buffed. So now it's back to its original form. I think this was the original form. So now so just before this patch, it was play 5 temporary cards, and then the quest reward costs 3 mana. Now with this patch, we're at play 6 temporary cards, and the quest reward costs 5 mana. That is huge. You are not getting that out fast. I mean, you would still probably get it down. Like, you aren't getting it down like one of my final bosses when I tried to get to Legend, who played the reward on turn 4. I was like, why did that never happen when I'm playing Quest Warlock? My gosh. Now you like literally can't do this until turn 5, and that's if you had a good draw earlier.
And the longer you go without having played the quest reward, the worse that deck's going to perform. And also the likelihood of being able to play the reward on the turn that you finish the quest is a lot lower because of the costing 5. And like, they had to buff the quest in order to make some of the quests playable. And this was one of the ones that had kind of the best prospects, and it was a meta deck for a while. But yeah, it doesn't need to. It does kind of make you wonder if, what environment they were testing it in. Maybe they were testing it with, these cards and it was fine. Or maybe it doesn't need to be fine. Who knows? It's not even worth going down that road. But ultimately, we've seen a lot of the same decks for the past 3-4 months. And anything that reduces the prevalence to just force people to play something different is good. And this is going to be one of the things that is easiest to address by just putting it back to the way that it was.
I guess. It just sort of feels like we already are giving up on the only quest that was playable. Like, I didn't really.
No, we're giving up on the other one that was playable too. Don't worry.
Well, It just sort of seems like why do they even bother with quests? If this is how it's going to be.
Quest Warrior might still be playable.
Sorry, yeah, I guess Quest Warrior, the one that doesn't require any deck building because it's just play a control deck.
The one that just says, and the one that must be slow because it says survive 10 turns on it. Yeah, I think also like for somebody, when they had the offer of the different meta decks, the ladder decks, I believe that I encouraged my husband to get the Warlock one. I'm going to double check. And then it turned out he didn't really have a lot of time to play over the past couple months. And I'm almost glad now that he didn't actually have a chance to learn this deck because it would be a shame to learn this deck. At the ranks that he's at, it might still be fine. I don't know. But it's a pretty significant hit. And if you have a more limited collection, that's kind of a shame. Like, yes, he can dust it now for a lot of dust. By the way, reminder, type refund into your collection. If you're not sure whether you want to dust it, you can just dust it, but don't use the dust right away. You can always recraft it if you decide you want it. So don't forget to do that. And
check wild cards too when you do that, by the way.
Oh,
yes, because there are 2 wild nerfs as well that we will get to. So, on the other hand, I think lower ranks we're probably seeing even, like, Quest Warlock was something that I think they're probably seeing both at higher ranks and lower ranks a lot of. And I know people were frustrated with that. I will also say our worst performing YouTube video was our guide to Quest Warlock. It was really interesting. Everybody was like, meh.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also like the fact that they had to ban all the quests in the pre-release brawl too, just to get people to play the new stuff, right? Like that was kind of the first sign that when you started seeing Quest Warlock and Quest Paladin in the pre-release brawl, it's like, yeah, okay, like maybe we don't need to be in that. But I don't know. Like, I think there is an argument probably for another time of whether an expansion should be a shift or if it should be an entirely new meta. Right. And because if we want an entirely new meta, we should be doing rotations a lot more often, is my feeling. Right. Like we're already basically, because the argument was that we didn't want to do rotations all the time because it would confuse new players, but we're nerfing like half the decks every couple months. So if we're going to do that, may as well just take those out of standard and make a clean cut. But that's a different discussion for a different day.
Yeah, I do think, at least as the way that we have it now, I will definitely say Lost City of Angoro especially, and to some extent other recent expansions, has not seen enough change in new decks, especially in the first week of the expansion compared to how one might want it to be. But you're never going to have, and shouldn't really have, no old decks surviving. And I think that's fine. But the sentiment has definitely been, and I can agree with this, that we're too far in the old deck direction, but it is a balance. It's not just because not everybody has the pre-order. Not everybody wants to learn a new deck every 5 minutes. So it is a balance. Speaking of popular decks, especially at lower ranks and quests, they also nerfed Dive the Galaka Depths. We know that this is actually the way that it was right up until right before launch, and then they buffed it right before launch. We know that because in Blister Guy's reveal video, it said summon 6 Murlocs, and then it launched at summon 5. It is now back to not summon. Oh wait,
it is summon. Yeah, no, you're right. It's summon.
They are incorrect in the patch notes. They say play, but it is in fact summon. They didn't change that. They just wrote the patch notes wrong.
If it was play, it would be dead. Like, oh yeah, like 6 feet under dead. If it was play instead of summon.
That was gaslighting me for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of summon 5 Murlocs, it is now summon 6 Murlocs per tick of the repeatable quest. The dev comment is, this quest has been especially prevalent in lower rank brackets, so we're scaling it back to shake things up. And I will say, every time I talk to someone who's playing at even a somewhat lower rank bracket, they're like, I see nothing but quest paladins. So even though it hasn't really been playable at like top legend for a while, or you would see it every once in a while and it was like, okay, it's just been a scourge on lower ranks, I think. So it is unfortunate for people who like playing it, although I don't know that this is going to be, it might still be playable at those ranks. It's not going to be playable at top legend because it was barely playable before, I don't think, but it might still be fine at lower ranks. But I think it will be like a popularity hit, and that's going to be important because people were just seeing it so much. A little bit of the Stormwind Pirate Quest Warrior issue, where it was very clear how you're supposed to play it. So that made it worse at higher ranks because people can predict it, but better at lower ranks because it's harder to misplay. It's easier to know what you should do. You should just play the Murlocs.
It's high ceiling, low floor, right? It's the kind of deck that top legend players don't really like because there's not a whole lot of skill expression. It's pretty straightforward to play. Like, you can misplay with it, don't get me wrong. Like, there's some skill. It's not like it's, you turn your brain off and you play the deck, but
yeah, absolutely.
It like the plays that you need to make are a lot clearer and more well defined and easier for a newer or less skilled player to identify. So it's popular for that reason, and it's good to climb, and it's fast, right? I mean, the games are generally over pretty quickly, and there are some decks that it just rolls because there are some decks that cannot deal with board after board after board, especially like a control deck that has a limited number of clears. There are some decks that just can't deal with that, and it will get those wins. So I think slowing that down is good, and it's not particularly fun to play against, in my opinion. So I think for that reason alone, it's probably a good thing to take it down a peg.
This definitely gives it you have a more window early to kill them before they start getting big, or you don't have to start clearing quite as fast.
Yeah.
And you can save your stuff if you're slower. So it'll probably still show up, but yeah. And I don't want to say, I don't think any Hearthstone decks are like turn your brain off, easy to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just that this one, it's like, what should I be doing? Summoning as many Murlocs as possible versus like Discover Hunter, where there's like so many different possible routes that it's like really hard to work your way through. Shout out to listener Arthurius, who I ran into on ladder, and I got them down to 2 health, and I thought for sure I've got him. And they just kept freezing me with the Muradin weapon, clearing my entire board and putting up taunts every turn until they finally killed me.
Oh, that was like the Death Knight that I played against that put down Husk, and I killed them with 3 corpses and then lost the game. I lost the game after that. So, because they just threw down a Hideous Husk and got some of that max health back and then kept having leeches that I couldn't clear. And, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, the leech is real tough for the Logosh Warrior. All right. So we also got some other nerfs to class cards here. So Sparkling Phial is the Druid card that used to be 3 mana, is now 4 mana. It was the deal 2 damage, your next card this turn costs that much less. So you have to have a little more mana to be doing this in the first place. It makes the owl combo. How possible is the owl combo now with this like change?
I think it's still possible, right? It's just you need a lot of spell damage to do the crazy stuff, right? Like the thing you always needed was to file and reduce the cost of a mana card to refresh all your
Sleep
crystals.
Under the Stars.
Yeah, Sleep Under the Stars. Like, you can still do that. I think it's just that you need to have played the ramp spell, right? Or have some kind of refresh, right? You can't owl, copy, and at 10 mana still have 3 mana to do this. Like,
right. Yeah. You need to have ramped or have innervate or have a Mirror Cell. So it's definitely possible, but you've got to get something online.
Yeah.
And you need at least 2 spell damage now instead of 1 for this to fully refund itself.
Yes.
Yes. Generally, you were trying to get a bunch.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
normally if you're, I mean, well, when you're going for lethal, you'll have that, but sometimes you need to remove stuff if you're close to dying, right? And you just need to use some of your burn pieces as removal, and this is going to make that harder to be able to do that defensively, to be able to get to a combo turn.
Clearly, they don't want the lack of Fyrakk to mean everyone says, all right, I'll druid. Or if they do, that it's going to be just that little bit harder. Speaking of burn, Corpsicle has gone from 2 mana to 3 mana. That makes it a lot harder to just weave into your turns and get that consistent burn every turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we still play it, probably.
Yeah, like it's still infinite 3 damage, but it does feel like, I mean, just a lot less smooth, right?
Yeah. Maybe we only have 1 copy. It's harder to just like use it efficiently as removal.
It's hard to get an extra 1 off of Snow Flurry. I mean, not that we're usually doing that in Quest Warlock, but this is another nail in the coffin for Quest Warlock, right? Making the Corpsicles more expensive, and also, like, very often you would be looking for 2 mana free when you play a Snow Flurry, and that this is going to decrease that pool as well. And Corpsicle is kind of one of the best ones that you could get off of Snow Flurry, because then it would just give you an extra Corpsicle that wouldn't actually go away because it would still come back to your hand. So this is another hit to the Quest Warlock on top of the quest taking longer. But also Frost Decay was a thing that we were starting to see. I mean, there's plenty of Death Knights that have just been using Corpsicle anyway, as long as they had 1 Frost. And Corpsicle was just like too good rate for too long and too samey of a finisher that we'd see. So it's probably fine for it to go up to 3.
Yeah, I mean, this was tended to be the only type of DK deck that I like to play, so I hope we don't have sort of no fast DK decks, although mostly what I had been seeing before anyway was the, like, Heron.
Yeah.
It was either Blood Decays or the Heron sort of Death Rattle thing, or, like, both in one kind of thing. I guess you can't have, like, full blood with the Heron, but...
It's also relevant if Frost Decay were to get more popular. Like, they run Frost Strike, which can give you more of these. So being able to churn out more of those in a turn and get them back also can kind of accelerate that win con. So slowing that down a little bit is also relevant.
I definitely do think they were trying to hit sort of all of the older decks a little bit, or most of them. Hit some slower tools, hit some faster tools, hit some combo tools. Because they were worried about it being unbalanced. We will, as of when we're recording this, we don't know how successful that was yet. If there's going to be something that they missed that emerges to take over or not, but I can see wanting, if you pull everything back a little bit from the older decks, then that makes it easier for newer cards to be played a little more. Like, they did not hit Logosh Warrior at all. They did not hit the Shaman at all, which is not a ton of new cards, but it is kind of a new deck to some extent. Like, Muradin is what ties it together. They did not hit anything for Paladin with the Aura Paladin, or the new stuff in Rogue. They definitely hit Fyrakk Rogue hard. But before we get to Rogue,
yeah, I mean, I think it is like, this is something that you have to address power creep one way or the other, right? The way that you're going to get new cards to make themselves known in a meta that has this many cards in it is you either need to make those cards overpowered, or you need to bring the power of the rest of the card pool down, or at least the outliers of the card pool down. This is arguably the healthier way to do it, but it also feels bad. But either way, you need to be doing something to make the new cards stand out amongst a lot of competition. And you can't necessarily just do that. If you do that by just putting more power on those cards, that ends up meaning that the next set has to do the same thing, and the next set has to do the same thing. And there's like an end to that. Rotation addresses some of it, but with this many cards in standard, even rotation is not enough unless you're going to start rotating more often.
I think there's been a lot of criticism in terms of not seeing what the dev direction is. I agree with that to the extent that it felt like, why did we make quests if we don't want quests to be good? Like, was there disagreement on the team about that no one sort of resolved early enough? Or what? We don't know. We just don't know. But in terms of what the vision is overall for like this patch, it's speculation, obviously, because I don't know for sure, but to me it seems pretty clear. They've been saying they want to bring the power level of standard down. One could argue whether that's a good goal or not, but the way that you do that is by continuing, like, all of the new expansions in this year are a somewhat lower power level, and you nerf old stuff.
Right.
So, and it would be unlikely that they would change course on that now. So, whether or not you think a lower power level is a good idea or not, there is a vision here, I think.
There's a consistency, for sure. Whether you agree with that or not is, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with it, to be clear. Like, I think that power creep, especially with this many cards in standard, is a real risk. And it's a delicate balance. But that means that you're going to have to, you know, pretty aggressively bring everything up or bring everything down. I know there are some people who really like buffs. I feel like sometimes you can only buff so much, and also buffs also still contribute to the power creep. Like, and I don't know if it's better to buff a card and then nerf it 3 months later. Rather, you know, like, I don't know really, because that's what they did with the Warlock quest. Right, they bought, and I guess the Paladin quest to a lesser extent, because they did that before they launched, right? And I don't know if that's better or not, but I think this feels like it's healthier, even if it's not what people like in the short term.
It has made for a year of difficult launches, and I think made worse by the ambivalence on quests. And then Imbue also being a very, like, hit or miss package. This expansion has that to a lesser degree, I think. But there are players who, you know, we had someone in our Discord who was saying that they hadn't been playing very much recently and were looking forward to rotation because they felt like maybe then it would be a bit of a lower power level, and that was what they liked in older Hearthstone. I know there are other people who are active now who are like, nah, Stormwind was my favorite meta. I want a lot of lethality. I want a lot of combos. And I loved Stormwind. But I also like, you know, the infamous phrase board-based gameplay. And that does seem to be what we're going for here. As long as, you know, I guess I will say, I tend to like high power metas, but I don't think that a low power meta is necessarily a wet noodle fest. Like, I don't think that that's necessarily true. It depends on, like, the relative strength of control tools and win conditions, even if maybe they're, like, a little bit slower.
I think the tricky thing is that we had 2 good sets before these last 4. And so it has been this recurring thing of, like, well, we've got to hit more Whizbang cards or more Perils cards, and like, we keep having to come back to doing that.
Yeah, but also, like, those cards had to hang with the cards from the year before, which were kind of bananas.
Titans.
Like, you had Titans, you had all of the Excavate stuff, you had Reno.
I'm not saying that's, like, I'm not saying that they should have made those sets worse necessarily, right? Like, that's not really what I'm getting at. It's more just that, like, the time-honored thing is to release sets that are, you know, a little bit stronger while you nerf the older stuff. And here it's just felt like we have to keep hitting old stuff, and then something else that wasn't that good of old stuff has to get hit because it's still better than the new stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like Dummy Warrior. Like that wasn't on people's radar as like the breakout thing. And like, yes, it's because of this new card Deus, but like
even Chemspell Tortola was like not a thing for a while after it existed.
Yeah. And like are people now just gonna be playing Cycle Rogue? Like is that gonna come back? It's just like there's constantly these cockroach decks that just find their way back into existence. It's like what do you hit now? And I just wish, I wish Syndergosa Mage was good. I wish that maybe all of those didn't cost 5. Or
you could
that
curve them a little bit. That would be really helpful.
or if Azure Spellstone costs 7 or something. I don't know. Like, I mean, actually, the requiring another dragon hasn't been that big a deal because we always copy Syndergosa anyway. But on top of having to hit these older things, it's like, well, but then the few new things that we do get, those get hit too for being stronger than everything else, right? So like, Escape the Underfell and Dive the Galactics getting hit here. Previously, Low, which not that I liked Low, but Low Druid was like the only new deck, and then that was gone. And
we haven't talked about yet, but they also in this patch hit Sanguine, Infestation, and Resuscitate.
Yes. Yep.
And some of that also feels like we used to have folks on the final design team who were like experts at finding the really broken interactions, like someone like a Chalky, right? Who were really good at finding those things. And maybe we just don't have someone like that who's able to find those broken interactions before. I mean, and it's when you're in that position, like you're trying to prevent everything and you're only going to get judged on the one thing you let slip.
Yeah, like we don't know how many things.
Yeah, like you don't know all the other things that are getting that are getting killed in the cradle, right? But it feels like more of those things are kind of slipping through unintentionally, like Turtle Mage of old, right? Like Turtle Mage is kind of the historical like biggest like miss on like we didn't intend for this deck to happen, and now it feels like we get one of those like per launch, and they get corrected. Right, but that kind of doesn't necessarily help the situation.
Well, I mentioned Sanguine Infestation. It has gone from 4 mana to 5 mana. It still draws 2 cards. It still summons 2 leeches, but it is now 5 mana, so it competes with more things in that 5 mana slot.
Good.
Gives an aggro deck a little more time to not be facing Sanguine Infestations.
Yep, and particularly, if they were going to still run Agent of Yore, I know you've mentioned this internally with us, Wicked. Now they're competing mana wise, right? You can't curve Sanguine into Yore.
Yeah.
So that's good, and it's just going to make the whole deck, like the whole curve, a little bit clunkier. I mean, draw 2 with significant upside should probably cost more than 4, right? I mean, like that's what they nerfed, like the Protoss draw 2 card to, right? That went up to 5 mana. This feels on par with summoning a 3/4 charge. The leeches, especially given the other support the deck has, I think that's fine to bring it up to 5. That feels reasonable to me.
And you can still curve it into a Hideous Husk and make your opponent sad.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's no longer so, like, if they're really ahead on board, it gives the aggro deck a little more chance to be really ahead on board before you Sanguine Infestation.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't help you as much. Like, the leeches are better when they're out ahead of the board, or like you just cleared and then it's out ahead of it. Because then it's really hard for an aggro deck to, like, get back when there's leeches on the board. So this makes it a little more likely you'll be on the back foot. And I know I always look at it from the aggro deck's perspective, but it also is just one less turn of the leeches going versus a slower deck. Now we have a pretty big nerf here to Sandbox Scoundrel. It used to say your next card this turn costs 3 less. Now it says your next card this turn costs 2 less. So both the 5 mana and the mini will now say your next card costs 2 less.
Good.
That just changes all the mana breakpoints for Rogue.
Yeah.
I think this is really the big reason why we won't see Fyrakk Rogue.
Well, also, like, this plus Fyrakk going to 10, right? Like, you're lowering the discount, and you're also making it 1 turn slower to be able to... I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if you get Narrowlex, but
now
they
you kind of
always
have
do.
to have Narrowlex.
But you have to have Narrowlex. Yeah.
When you're the one playing it, you don't always. When your opponent is playing it, they always.
That's yes.
Yeah, this is pretty significant, but we've had Scoundrel. I mean, I suppose the criticism you could have is that Scoundrel's been enabling a lot of rogue decks, and the positive thing you could say is Scoundrel's been enabling a lot of rogue decks. So, or just enabling, like, scammy stuff maybe in the rogue decks. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, this also nips the potential Incendios deck, right? Because you can no longer reduce Incendious to 1 mana by going Deos Scoundrel Mini Incendious, which was a way that if you were running Water Sonya, you could...
Sonya Water Dancer, yeah.
Yeah, that you could, get a second Incendious.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I didn't even see that, but yeah, this makes it work a lot less well with Deos because it only discounts 4 with Deos instead of 6. That's huge.
Yeah. And like notably they didn't nerf Incendious. And because this is the biggest way to enable any sort of shenanigans with it, like this still opens the door for Tic Tac to brew an Aviana Priest with Deos and Incendious.
They're
as
letting
a
us
win con.
have the 14 mana Incendious Deos.
It's not 14
combo.
mana if you play Aviana, then it's
sure,
just 2 mana.
It's just 12
you just
turns.
have to play Aviana, yeah.
Listen, 12 turns is like a short game for Control Priest. It's fine. Like, besides, it's not really 12 turns because you're probably playing Parrot Sanctuaries to get Aviana down closer to turn 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's good that we didn't hit Incendious itself. It can also go in a deck as just like I saw it in a Cycle Rogue. Whether we're happy about Cycle Rogue or not, I mean, people love playing that deck. So, but it was the last thing that they played because their deck was empty, and then they drew a card, and then I died. So, that works. They also hit Resuscitate. Resuscitate went from 5 mana to 6 mana. Even as a priest main, that's probably fair. Resuscitate was always kind of nuts.
Just a bananas card.
If you had it on curve, it was insane.
If you think about it, right, this was giving you 6 mana worth of minions, but even before you consider the reborn.
Right, yeah.
You were getting 6 mana's worth of minions for 5 mana, and you got to pick the minions. And then you're giving them reborn on top of it. Like, that's too good. And 6 mana does seem more fair. I don't know if this kills Protoss Priest, but I think it does bring it a little bit closer to Earth.
Protoss Priest was definitely something that was also definitely seen at higher ranks also, but especially seen a lot at lower ranks. And I think another thing that people are really sick of seeing, beyond the Quest Paladin and the Quest Warlock. So I can see wanting to hit that. It is, again, it's a bit of a shame because this is one of the decks that you could get in the ladder ready decks is Protoss Priest, but you don't want to never nerf a deck just because it was a ladder ready deck. So, and it's probably still perfectly playable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably still fine as a ladder ready deck. I mean, you also were enabling like OTK Priest with that too, because then you were also getting the crafters out of it, right? So that's also going to slow that down a little bit. And like, it forces you to have a turn 5, right? Which is still kind of chrono boost anyway in the Protoss Priest in general. Like, it doesn't even hurt
we
your
have turn
curve that
5s.
much.
Yeah.
Because you have a turn 5 anyway, so it doesn't even hurt your curve that much.
Wait, does it make it just easier to play Elise in Protoss Priest?
I don't know if you need to play it. No, I don't think so, because you have to play a lot of early game, and I don't think you really want a lot of stuff at the higher mana spots, right? Like, you still have 1 through 6 and 12. I don't think you're really play. I guess you could play Artanis. Maybe it gets you a little bit closer,
Artanis
but like,
and Sasquatch.
yeah, I guess you could play Sasquatch.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at this. Yes, because Sasquatch would go in anyway. We already have an expensive card in Mothership, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that gives you 1 through 8 and 12. So you would just need like a 9 or a 10. I guess it's a matter of like, what are you playing at 9 or 10 in Priest?
Ziliax.
Ugh. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, honestly.
Ziliax is
That's
sort
probably...
of the 9.
It is going to be interesting to see how much harder it is to fit Elise in when you don't have things like Ziliax and Siechless Expanse being able to help you with your curve and fill out those extra slots.
When you have to run an honest Wisp.
Yeah.
There is a list on HS Guru that has Elise and is running a single gravity lapse.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
Just to
why
be
not?
like, why not? And then it was running Bob, and Bob is good, but now you won't even necessarily need Bob if you don't want him, because Resuscitate will cost 6 and Chrono Boost costs 5. And Elise herself costs 4, plus you have Xavius probably. And yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
I guess you could also run Aviana at 9, but you know.
Nah, because our expensive stuff we're discounting as Protoss stuff. Yeah.
Because why not?
For the culture, is that what we're saying?
Think of how much you wouldn't have to worry about your Protoss discounts if everything just cost 1.
Yeah, but then you don't run sentries or any discounts. You just run Aviana and Mothership because that's the plan.
No, it's your backup plan for when they hex your sentries.
So maybe the motherships just go in this unicorn Aviana priest that we are waiting for as an additional
Aviana
win
is
con.
actually a unicorn in disguise.
Well, I don't think Protoss Priest is dead.
We should stop talking about fever dreams and talk about actual cards.
Well, something that is now a fever dream, or really not even, it's just dead, is Dummy Warrior, because Testing Dummy went from saying Death Rattle, deal 8 damage randomly split among all enemies, to Death Rattle, deal 8 damage split among enemy minions. So it no longer goes face. So, like, the whole point of the Deos Dummy Warrior just doesn't work anymore.
It's a lot of work for a board clear.
Yeah. And on top of that, probably mostly for the other warriors, is Chemspill is now 6 mana instead of 5 mana.
It's still significant, but like there were a bunch of games on that Climb to Legend where I just needed to get to 5 to Chemspill a Tortola and stabilize, and if I had to wait one more turn, I was not going to make it. Like, the difference between 5 and 6 turns to be able to completely aggro someone down is a real difference. And there's not that there's not armor and things that you can do, but Chemspilling Tortola is a wall for a lot of decks. And unless you have like some sort of like a non-targeted removal, or you have a board wipe or something like that, which aggro decks aren't going to have. They're going to need to have burn to go over the top.
Or you were needing to play Royal Librarian, which like...
Yeah, right. Which you could. That's a thing you could do. But also some people have, more self-respect than others. So, it's... But yeah, so making this cost 6... Like, I Chemspill Tortola, I can't see that not being a thing. Like, you're still going to run Tortola. This helps you get it out earlier. It's still getting it out earlier than turn 10. But But it's if you're relying on that as part of your game plan, it's gonna go more poorly for you.
I think it's no longer like in all the Warriors, right? So like it's no longer in Enzo's homebrews. Because unless it's like if it's not a controlling warrior, it's not as proactive if it costs 6 mana than 5. Like I think we'll still see it, but you think about whether you put it in now, whereas before I was like, yeah, it's a warrior, Chemspell Tortola.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing was that like in the mech warrior, you were also running quality assurance just to draw the one copy of Dummy and Tortola to ensure that you were going to have it on 5 with the chem spell. And it's a lot harder to guarantee that you're going to have Tortola in your hand if you're not doing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think making it 6, again, it's slowing it down. It's giving the aggro decks more of a puncher's chance to actually get through before the Tortola comes down.
Sometimes you just win on 5 in aggro, you know? Okay. Ultralisk Cavern went from 3 mana to 4 mana. That, of course, is the Zerg location that deals 1 damage to all enemies and Death Rattle summon an 8/8 Ultralisk with Rush.
Definitely impactful, but I honestly haven't been seeing a lot of the Warlock decks that do this. And a lot of times you're playing Nidus Swarm on 3, so that makes it cost 3 instead of 2 with the discount. I feel like this could still be a good card, right? But I'm not sure any of the decks that want to do that are playable right now.
I mean, I think their worry was with some of the hits in this, maybe it's hugely playable now, but if we hit everything else around it and we don't hit it,
Sure.
Like Egglock runs this, I believe, and was just like actually super high on win rate. And this is a pretty minor nudge to that, all things considered, I think. So, yeah, I think it might have been a nod to Egglock, actually, without touching Egglock's primary game plan.
I mean, they did just buff the Egg of Kalos to make it playable. I don't see them being able to, they had to buff it into playability, and I don't think reverting that buff is going to make it so that it's still fine. Like, it didn't seem like the kind of buff that they had to do to make people pay attention to it, because people are already paying attention to it because it was one of the most interesting things to come out of that mini set, and it just wasn't good enough. So I can't see them reverting that buff unless Egglock becomes oppressive, and then they'll take the taunt off the 2020. But this is kind of a halfway step, and like this stuff, like the Zerg stuff, should be rotating in a couple months. So it's kind of like, hey, start playing something else.
All right, we're getting near the bottom here. So Metal Detector, the rogue weapon that Paladin and Rogue and Mage can also get access to. It used to say, after your hero attacks and kills a minion, get a coin. Now it just says Death Rattle, get a coin. So you only get 1 coin out of it. You do have the silver lining that you no longer need to hit minions. You will still get the coin if you go face now, essentially. You get 1 coin.
Or if you just break the weapon.
Or if you just break the weapon. So in the Aura Paladin, if we're playing this, like, you can just play it on 3, hit in, and not feel like you're giving up a coin, because you're not if you just play the 4-mana weapon on 4.
Yep.
So, and you could go face if you want. You don't need them to have a minion.
What this might hurt more, which we haven't seen yet, but might have threatened to come back, would be the Big Spell Mage.
Big Spell Mage was sort of back, yeah.
Yeah, because Big Spell Mage was like starting to make a little bit of a comeback at the end of right before this new set came out. And that really does need the 2 coins off of the Metal Detector in order to really be able to do what it's going to do. Because especially if you're using one of them for Skyla, then to swap the cost, like, then you don't have that to be able to power out the other stuff. So that really does get her a little bit more by having fewer coins. So I don't hate that there. And like, again, I don't think Aura Paladin gets hurt by this too badly. Most of the rogues were running it, and again, the coins were also enabling the early Fyrakks, so taking that down a peg is also barely reasonable. Also, I love it whenever rogue gets nerfed, so I'm happy.
It just happens to also nerf mage and paladin. Maybe, I don't know. I kind of feel like rogue might have actually benefited the most from the additional coin. And in general, the ability to like not have to hit minions, I feel like is a big deal. It's definitely sort of a sideways hit.
Yeah, I think so. So go face, kids. You are free. Go face. And then lastly, we have 2 hits to aggro. So RC Rampage in Hunter went from 4 mana to 5 mana. That's the one that summons 6/1/1 hounds, and any that can't fit give the others +1/+1. And Battlefiend went from a 1 mana 1/3 to a 1 mana 1/2. That's the one that says after your hero attacks, gain +1 attack.
Poor Battlefiend just feels like it keeps like getting bumped around, because I feel like this is the second time that we've had this. Like, I think didn't it start as a 1/3 and then they made it a 1/2 and then they reverted it to 1/3 and now they put it back to 1/2 again. I feel like that's
I have no idea.
happened. I feel like Battlefiend's had a long and storied history of not knowing what his toughness is. And
They
I can
put
relate to
the
that.
Slither Sphere, the sock puppet Slither Sphere, from 1/3 to 1/2, I think. And now they've done that to Battlefiend as well.
Battlefiend also got nerfed to a 1/2 at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think
it's
pretty
back.
early on.
Yeah, I mean it was a day 1 Demon Hunter card.
Right.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, it was a 2/2 originally.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, so it was a 2/2. They nerfed the attack down to 1 after day 1 Demon Hunter, and then they gave it 3 health when they put it into core. They buffed it from a 1/2 to a 1/3 when they put it into core. So now they're reverting it to what it was when it was in standard the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the rationale is that these, I think, between these 2 aggro cards, is that Beast Hunter and Aggro Demon Hunter, just stats-wise, very, very strong. Both of them. And these 2 cards were outliers in the respective decks that we probably still run in the respective decks. The RC Rampage is kind of a big deal because it no longer curves into Dinomancy, which would be definitely something that one would do in the Beast Hunter. So I'm not sure exactly whether we're changing our build at all in the Hunter. But RC Rampage was just like... World 8 would always... Anytime that someone posted an aggressive Hunter that didn't have RC Rampage in it, World 8 would be like, why don't you have RC Rampage in this deck? You just need to be running it.
Yeah.
And be correct. So, like, it was an outlier card. And Battlefiend is just so hard to deal with that 3 health in the early game, and then it would snowball, and then you can't kill it, and then...
Yeah. I mean, it's a 1-drop with 3 health, and that's hard to deal with. Like, there are things that can do 3 damage, but they generally I mean, if you're spending your turn removing that with 3 damage, either with like a spell or or having to run like a weapon into it or whatever, that's kind of fine for the Demon Hunter, because that means that they just get to rebuild immediately. So yeah, making that a little bit easier, even if you get to ping it over 2 turns, like, that's still better.
All right. Lastly, there were 2 wild changes. So the dev comment here says, we're making a few targeted adjustments to outliers in wild. Holy Wrath has been part of Hearthstone since the very beginning, but its current level of consistency and burst damage goes beyond what we want for the format. As for Discard Warlock, it's a core strategy for the class and will continue to receive support, but we'll be keeping a close eye on it to ensure the cumulative impact of its cards doesn't push things too far. So Holy Wrath went from 5 mana, draw a card and deal damage equal to its cost, to 3 mana, draw a card and deal damage equal to its cost to a minion.
No more ceaselessing your opponent in the face.
It is not a thing we're doing anymore. I'm sure there's plenty of other OTKs in Wild.
I mean, it had a good run.
It did. It really, really did.
I mean, it's been doing that for a year, and it had Shivala before that. So, like, it's had its fun. Like, I think that's fine.
Yeah. And then Malchazar's Imp, the engine behind Discord Warlock for many years, went from 1 mana to 2 mana. Malchazar's Imp is the 1/3 demon that says whenever you discard a card, draw a card.
Yeah.
I mean,
seems reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be harder to fit into some of those explosive turns, and that's fine. Maybe we can try that twist season again now that buff has happened, or that nerf has happened.
Yeah, God, that card, I remember that card from Karazhan. It's been doing its thing for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I mean, overall, I will say we'll have to see again how these changes work out in the meta, but I can see the direction here. I think it's thoughtfully done. And
For
hopefully we can have some newer decks shine, and hopefully we won't just have like one or two. I'm sure it will be, we'll have another opportunity for balance before the mini set. And I would love to see a little bit of buffs there, but I can understand why given the philosophy that we've had, it makes sense to focus on nerfs, and overall the things that they nerfed make sense to me as nerf targets.
Yeah, I just, I wish that a few things out of the new expansion were a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to put it any other way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of the nerfs were two things that were printed last year. So, like, I think back to the year of, like, Witchwood, Boomsday, Rostacon's Rumble, and, like, we thought Magnetic was a completely dead mechanic because the only card from Boomsday that saw any play was original Ziliax, and then as soon as the year prior rotated, we had like Mech Hunter, and Magnetic became an actual part of the meta. So I think that there's potentially going to be room for some of these things to shine a little bit once those other cards are out of the way, which is kind of where I was going with the rotation thing, right? Is that sometimes you just need to get the older stuff completely out of the way to make room if we really want a meta to be completely fresh. I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying that, like, if this is what we're trying to do, it is very hard to lower the power level of standard while we still have the stuff that was printed to stand out among significantly higher powered cards. I mean, maybe there's an argument for like doing a full like power level reset across that year's cards, but again, I don't think there's a good solution to it, and I think you probably still miss stuff.
Yeah, you can't really do all of them. And I will say, even this like lower power format, that's still like there are cards in core. I look at exactly the ones that I meant. Like it's still higher power, I think, than like early days Hearthstone. Right? It's just not as high powered as the
Stormwind.
Badlands Titans. Yore.
But it's not about, for me, it's not about like the power of what's in standard, right? It's about the power of the new cards.
Mm-hmm.
And this is once again where it feels like, well, launch day wasn't launch day, it was the balance patch that happened next.
Yeah. And that is a problem. I mean, I don't know whether the goal of power down the format like is worth this year that we've had, but we will hopefully we still have a while for this expansion. I hope they can bring some things up that launch so that we have a little bit more of that, and then we'll see how. I'm not saying everything will be better with rotation. We don't know. We will see how it goes.
I mean, if people do not feel better after rotation, I think this whole experiment has failed. Right? Because they have not said this, but we've had nothing to do but sort of project that this must be the grand design, right? Is that like there's this great depowering over the course of 2025 so that in 2026 we'll have had a full year's worth of cards that fall under a certain design philosophy, and then in 2026 when rotation happens we'll get to really see how those things do up against each other, and who knows what they'll do with core and other stuff, and maybe then we can play a 10 mana Medivh. Like I don't I don't know if that's going to be better, right? Yeah, maybe then Quest Rogue will be playable. Like, I don't know if we're going to want to be doing these things.
Yeah.
Or will we just want to be doing the new stuff from the new set? Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely one who, like, there is obviously a point at which you can have too much power creep in general because, like, the health is not rising with the level of the cards or whatever. I get that. Like, if you just had, 1 mana win the game to be, like, the most extreme possible reductio ad absurdum. Obviously, you can get there. But a little bit of power creep every set so that the game overall becomes a little more powerful over time. I do understand why that's a problem for a lot of people. For me, it never really felt like a problem. But we are where we are. Hopefully this patch will help some of the newer things shine, and then hopefully we get a little bit of a push to newer things that need a little more help. I don't know what they're going to do, but I would like to see that.
Yeah. And like, there's still a mini set. There's still probably going to be a buff patch, right? This was the nerf patch. This was the launch patch, right? To get rid of, hopefully, the old stuff that has been powerful. What will be demoralizing is if we now get the previous stuff that was nerfed, right? Or just stuff that was under the surface, right? We mentioned that this shaman is very powerful. That's not exactly a new deck. It's a new take on an old deck, right? It's no longer running the Dragon Slop package, but it is still utilizing these doubling minions and Wish Upon a Star and other stuff. If people aren't gonna feel better that Quest Warrior is running 10 new cards. If they're still losing to what feels like an old deck of Quest Warrior, right? They're not going to feel better.
I mean,
like, it's okay. Crocolisk's Precursory Strike. So that's 4.
For Glory.
For Glory is 6. I don't think they even run Chronolord Epoch. That's in mine. Murazond, I guess, is the 7th, right? Because you run Murazond so that you absolutely obliterate any other control deck because you find Time Warp. Yeah. So it's Precursory Strike, Unleash the Crocolisks, and For Glory, which are all amazing.
I do think Quest Warrior was not super, super prevalent last expansion, and it isn't an archetype that people like to play. I could see it getting aggravating in this expansion. I don't think it's like...
I would project...
I don't think it's as bad as nothing but Quest Warlocks in terms of sentiment, but maybe I'm wrong.
I would project the next balance patch in however many weeks is going to have nerfs to Warrior.
Probably.
And buffs to other things. I don't even know if that's wrong, right? Because Unleash the Crocolisks and For Glory are bananas.
I mean, we just need Plate Breaker back in Standard, is really...
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's always kind of the risk with armor, is that you can go a little bit too hard, right? And that's why the issue that we've had for a long time was neutral armor, right? Like Ancient of Yore and Arkonite Defense Crystal, and everyone having access to massive amounts of armor
Yeah.
I mean, without having to run anything, just those 2 cards are giving you like 18 armor, just running 2 copies of each of those cards in any class. And at least if it's only the warriors that are doing that, maybe it feels a little bit less oppressive. I don't know. But it's this is also a tale as old as time, right? Like, I remember I've been doing the show for what, almost 4 years now that I've been a host on the show, and I remember recording an episode of Off Curve, which is my podcast before this, talking about how like the time between expansion launch and the first balance patch was effectively early access.
I don't think we've ever had at launch where we had more than 24 hours of all the new stuff kind of being played equally, and nobody really knows what's good, and we're playing all kinds of new stuff. Even if newer decks would emerge later on in the first week, there was always like something that took over on day 1 or day 2.
Yeah.
And there was always like some good aggro deck from the last expansion that was really good on day 1. I think we have had a little bit more like older decks stronger at the beginning. So I'm not saying that we're at the right balance now by any means, but I think it's easy to over romanticize what it used to be like.
I mean, Skullomance. Skullomance
Okay.
was peak for me.
Yeah. Wow.
They can't all be Skullomance.
Yeah.
Alec Dawson, we miss you.
But like, we have had things that have been strong and then they've been low, right? So it's like sometimes when they do that, when they do shoot high, they shoot too high. Right? I remember a conversation, this was before I was a host of the show, talking about like, well, if you shoot for a 9, then sometimes you hit a 10, but if you're shooting for a 10, sometimes you hit 11. Right?
Yeah.
And that, to be fair, they seem like they've been shooting more at like a 7 lately. But sometimes they do shoot for a 10 and they've hit 11. And it's I mean, this is why I'm not a game designer.
Yeah,
Because
this stuff is hard.
I would be terrible at this, and I would rather just sit in a room with numbers and, you know, deal with data and not actually try to solve these problems. That's why I'm not offering any solutions, right? Because like, I don't know. I don't think I could do it better. But it's hard, and it's hard with this many cards to be able to predict what's going to be overpowered. I mean, the alternative is that you play Magic and then maybe you get a card banned every 6 months. And then people just stop playing Standard for months at a time. So I don't know, you know, it's not like the other games are getting this better, are doing better at this in general. It's just a different philosophy.
Yeah. I hope it pays off.
Yeah.
Right. Or come rotation next year, there's gonna be, the bill is gonna come due in, you know, a bigger way than it has been already.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they don't do the same thing that they did last time, that they had a reset and introduce Specialist, that I think will be okay.
Yeah.
So TJ, if you're listening, don't bring back Specialist next year, and I think we'll be fine.
I think we're safe on that front. I actually feel this is the most optimistic I've ever felt about competitive. Right? With TJ at the helm, with Pocket joining our ranks on the casting desk. Like, yeah. You know, with the announcement of, I think the people were saying Worlds next year at BlizzCon.
It was in the BlizzCon announcement that Worlds is going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, competitive, it's all coming up great. It's just,
we just need interesting metas to show off.
Yeah.
Broadcast.
Yeah, man. I hope I am surprised this Sunday.
Yeah.
Deeply, deeply hope that.
I mean, that being said, right, I would not be surprised if there are people who are going to be in that tournament who are intentionally avoiding ladder.
Sure.
And testing offline in private practice groups. so as to not have their deck showing up on data sites. It would not surprise me if that were the case.
Yeah, we could definitely have the emergence of new decks. By the time you are listening to this, listener, there, if last call has already happened, we could absolutely have things that people have been sitting on, because it's often those players who are at the very forefront of the meta. So,
and you have to do a lot of that testing offline anyway, or in private matches anyway, just because the meta that you're going to see in the tournament is not necessarily what you're going to run into on ladder.
But anyway, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at concede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@coinconcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop, shop.coinconcede.com. I promise, deadline of Thanksgiving. It's gonna happen.
We should have like a turkey-themed shirt to celebrate.
And it'll be up for Black Friday. That's the main thing.
So like back when I was a very young boy, and I had a Commodore 64, and there was a game called Spy vs. Spy, which was based off of the old Mad Magazine comics that were in the back.
Good
and
comics.
The load times on games, especially games that were on disc, were like you would wait literally like 15-20 minutes for the game to load, and it had multiple load screens, and one of them was just, don't worry, it will be worth the wait on the load screen.
Amazing.
And I feel like that's what we need right now. So
Sims could be like that a little bit sometimes too. I still have a little bit like, oh, I have to restart the game for like my mods to take effect, but it's like, no, it's fast now. It's okay. Sims 2 can't hurt you anymore. Sims 2 probably loads fine now in their remaster on modern machines, but or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to play the remaster. Thank you also to Conte for the sub during the show, if we didn't already say that. I'm going to coin concede to a website called betterexplained.com, which is sort of like a math and like computer science and other STEM topic blog where they just kind of explain things in a really clear way with nice diagrams, really accessible for students. And also a coin concede to my husband. I spent hours yesterday trying to answer a calculus question that my student had that was kind of glossed over in the book. I think because the formal proof for what she was asking is too advanced. But I wanted to give her something for it. And because it was an important question. It was basically, for any math nerds out there, the derivative of e to the x is e to the x. Great. It's because that's one way you can define e, but why is that e the same e that we saw earlier with like continuous compound interest and stuff like that, is what she wanted to know. And that's a good question. And I did not know, and I could not find anything. So I look in the book, I play with it a little bit myself. Can't quite get there. Well, first I like searched YouTube, I searched Google. Everything was either hand wavy or like inscrutable. I tried Stack Exchange. This shows that I'm not a real programmer. It took me a while to go there. There were some formal proofs. It was great, but not accessible to a high school senior. I asked in our Discord, and then asking in my Discord, my husband shows up and is like, hey, here. And it was perfect. It was done, like minutes. He saw it. We had the answer. I had already spent hours on this, and it is exactly what I needed. And they have some other good articles too. So, but I also decided that we're going to lay derivatives of exponential functions aside, get really comfortable with polynomials, and come back. And then I will have the right explanation for her.
Well, I'm going to coin concede to something a little less technical, I guess, but I'm going to coin concede to Cow Tipper Toys, which is one of the vendors that I bought from. I gave them a lot, not a lot of money, but a decent amount of money at Comic-Con, because they had these adorable sleeping Pokemon in teacups. And
Pretty
so
cute.
I got a Bulbasaur for me and a Psyduck for Maureen. and they are adorable. And they're just like 3D printed things, but they're very, very cute. And he's making me happy just kind of sitting on my desk and having a little nap. So sometimes I wish that I was sitting in a teacup having a nap, but that's neither here nor there.
Cool. Well, I want to concede to the two of you for holding the fort down last week. When I was, totally out with my voice.
Thank you for still doing the editing, even though you weren't doing the marking during the show. I appreciate
That's fine.
It does take some commitment to do the not fun stuff, even not beginning to be part of the fun part. So,
yeah, well, it's at this point my most significant contribution to the show.
Well,
so feels important,
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and don't be a dummy. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.